Affordable housing is the play for 2023. Why is that? Well, in spite of the recessionary market, there is still a huge need for affordable housing and just a need for housing in general. So what makes this need so important right now, even though we're in a recessionary market? Well, I'm going to sit back and explain to you guys a few things here that are really happening in this market that the media is not going to tell you. They're going to sit back and tell you that foreclosures are up by over 150% from this time last year. What they fail to tell you is that if you look back at the market from just 2 years ago, we are actually down on foreclosures by 1%, okay? And if you take a look at the cities that are having the highest foreclosure rates, they're less affluent cities that most people, 99% of the population, already know demographically are not really affluent. Now you look at the big cities and you look at the most affluent areas, in this market right now, actually foreclosures are down by an excess of over 50% in most of the most affluent cities across the United States. So in spite of what they're telling you guys, there is still a really good market out there. In fact, if you go back historically, just 2 years ago, we haven't even hit the norm of where we were in 2019. So bad market, good market, still a good market. We just tied up another 7 acres up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're working on a 18-acre tract and parcel up in northern Dallas. And so we're still buying. 100% of everything that we're doing and hyper-focusing on right now is all on affordable housing. So I'm going to dissect for you guys what that housing model is and what you guys should be putting your attention to and focus on. Now, if you're in a declining market, meaning that you're in a market that the population is actually going down, you should be looking into affordable housing and you should be looking into government subsidized housing. That means it's housing that's subsidized by the federal government or state and local government. And so what is that? A lot of that is like Section 8 housing. So for those of you guys who are focusing on some markets, the Section 8 housing market is a really good market. Not the market that I really focus on, but it's still a very good market. And because there's a massive need, we have the baby boomers, ladies and gentlemen. The baby boomers demographically and veterans are, there's a lot of veterans that even are still from the Vietnam War and just regular veterans that are getting to an age now, they're part of the baby boomer age, that there's a need for housing and there's less affluency. And so there's a massive need for, especially in declining markets, for more affordable housing that's subsidized by our federal government. You could do a subsidized to unsubsidized play in that market sector, meaning that you can start off in a Section 8 housing market that needs subsidized housing, and over the course of time, you can slowly start reducing the amount of Section 8 housing that you have in there if that market starts to become more affluent or you want to get out of the Section 8 housing sector. Now, it's guaranteed money. Sometimes there's a little bit of need for a little bit of hyper management, but a Section 8 housing client, a lot of times, they won't ruin their status because if they do, they no longer qualify for Section 8 housing. So a lot of times, even though there's horror stories with less affluent renters, there's still a massive need. And you still get to vet your own clients out. So that's a great thing. And so if you have a demographic that you want to focus on, like maybe over 55 years old, you can't discriminate, but you can focus on the need for housing for people over the age of 55 and call it an active living adult community that's in the subsidized housing market or Section 8 housing. So just some little ideas. Now, that's not the market we focus on. So what are we focusing on? Well, we're focusing more on a workforce housing model where we go into markets that are affluent, and the main sections that we're going into, like in Phoenix, in Dallas, that are predominant to us, a lot of repositioning of old assets, distressed areas. We'll go in and reposition assets, or we'll find land, little pieces and parcels of land where there's a need for housing, and it's work-class housing. Because think about it, people with families that need a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, for sake of example, these folks nationwide are paying on average of $2,000 to $3,000 a month for rent. And these are folks that can't afford to get into a home. Well, ladies and gentlemen, these folks will pay less on a mortgage, even with high inflated rates, than than what they're paying in rent. So one thing that we focus on is we focus on workforce housing, and you can call it what you want. We call it 3-story garden style. We're calling a lot of them now 4-story urban build, more urban development. And what we're doing is we're going into areas that need housing. that there's rooftops that are needed, growing cities, that in spite of this recessionary market, there's a massive need for rooftops. And instead of going in and doing a fully amenitized multifamily apartment complex, one thing that we're doing is we're not focusing on all the swimming pools. And when I say amenitized, that means amenities, right? Like that means, like when you think about an automobile, that's the leather interior, that's the increased technology package that you would pay for. In multifamily, in housing, you're talking about the amenities like the big clubhouses, the little office components that go with those clubhouses, the big pool rooms, the couches, and all of that space that's in them. We strip a lot of that stuff out of our development models, the swimming pools. And if we do a swimming pool, we just do something super basic. And so we're stripping out a lot of the amenities that take management expenses to do it. The reason why 3 stories versus 4 stories, well, when we stay under 4 stories, we're able to go in and we don't have to put elevators. Once we go to a 4th story nationwide, guess what we have to do? We have to do elevators. Once we put elevators in there, we have to do CMU, block shafts, okay? So look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm giving you guys an exact business model to what we're doing in the multifamily sector because there's a need for this stuff. We're going into an area in Dallas area that there's no multifamily within a 3-mile radius, circular radius, in this one area where there's universities and there's a ton of affluency in that area where once it was workforce housing, but now it's not. The average median income is over $112,000 a year. These folks can afford homes. There's just no homes for them to buy. And so they're renting. They want to be able to go in and they don't want to have a $3,000 a month nut for multifamily. So we can go in, we can strip out the amenities and we can give them that exact same housing for $500, $800 less a month. And think about it from a perspective like this. A lot of these home buyers, what type of cars are they buying? Are they buying the BMWs, Mercedes, the Range Rovers, and the big expensive cars? Typically, no. They're the ones that are going out and buying the Hondas, the Toyotas, the Kias, and some of the cars that are a little bit less expensive. And a car like that, they can go in and that affords them a car payment. So what they would normally pay in rent, now they can go out and get an apartment and they can also get an automobile. And so when people start doing well and they start living, what's one of the first things that people buy themselves? They buy themselves an automobile, right? They want a new automobile. Okay, let's take some questions here. I need to learn more about taxes. Yeah, there's a lot to learn about taxes. If I wanted to become a builder, would it be wise for me to go be a superintendent for somebody else first? I don't know, I was never a superintendent, but yes, if you need to learn the trade, you can, but not necessary. You need to come into our inner circle in our program and work with us. Hey, Jerome, love your content, can't wait to get started. Looking forward to having you, Moby. Michael Reyes, I thought you mentioned on one of your videos that you're doing projects in California. I am. We're doing stuff over in the Desert Hot Springs area by Palm Springs. Thoughts on building multifamily in the Pittsburgh market. There's a need in Pittsburgh, Allentown, that whole area up there is in need of housing. Side question, if you had to start a concrete business over again today, how would you do it? You did 7 figures in your first year. Yeah, you go in, take 50% deposits from people, go into the residential sector and go kick ass. Go give people more for their money. There's so much affluency in concrete, very profitable. You can get started without a lot of money out of your pocket because you don't need a lot of tools. Okay, so back to affordable housing, ladies and gentlemen. Affordable housing, I'm telling you guys, this is a huge market. You can go in and buy a 1-acre parcel in your city. And if you think, let's say that you can get on a 1-acre parcel with parking and everything, you can probably build out someplace in the neighborhood of about 8,000 to 10,000 square feet, depending on how dense they'll let you build and how much parking you can fit. So if you can fit 8 to 10,000 square feet, that's an equivalent to 12 to 16 units on that 1-acre lot. You could probably build vertical, go 2 to 3 stories, build very effectively, and you can go in, and if that thing only values at $200,000 a door with new construction, which there's very few places across the United States right now that multifamily is worth less than $200,000 a door in new construction. In fact, most areas are up as high as $300,000 a door on multifamily new construction in most median marketplaces. So if you go in, you buy just a 1-acre lot, and let's say you pay $150,000 for that lot, which is extremely good, but it's also very, very viable. And you go in and you build 14 units. Ladies and gentlemen, you go in and build 14 units at $200,000, that's $2.8 million gross revenue on that. Gross asset on that, gross asset net worth on that one property. When I say net worth, that's if it's all paid off, right? But you have a $2.8 million asset on that one property, okay? So if you could build that thing out, real simple, for about $185 a square foot, and you acquire the land, you're gonna have about $1 million in net equity in that project, okay? Now, you're able to do something like that with $1 million, a little over $1 million. You'll have about $1.4 million in equity in that. You could probably pull about $1 million out on a cash out refi, and you have an asset that's worth just shy of $3 million. And I bet you that asset will be worth closer to $4 million. And you pull $1 million out on a cash out refi, that'll be your start. So ladies and gentlemen, there's a mass need for this. Don't go in and try to do what we're doing if you've never done this before. Don't try to go in and bite off 100 plus units. Now we're working on 200 plus units on everything that we're doing. Go in and start small. Try one of them like that. It's a lot of work, so you'll figure it out in the first one, but you'll learn. And you go out and you do this, you're gonna sit back and go, I'm gonna go from 14 units on a 1 acre lot, and now I'm gonna scale this to 100 units, 50 units, 80 units. And if you guys want to be a part of what we're doing in real estate domination, I call it the big picture. If you guys want to know what the big picture is, what is the big picture in your eyes as far as retirement? In my eyes, it's traveling the world, it's being able to have a fluency to come and go, do whatever I want to. And how do you do that? How do you acquire that? Passive residual income. How do you get passive residual income? From passive income that comes in whether you work or not. How do you get passive income? Multifamily is a great way to do it. Industrial warehouses, fulfillment centers, or office warehouse space is a great way to do it. Multifamily is what I love to be able to build out right now because there's a massive need for affordable housing. And so you get that passive income every single month coming in spite of you working or not. And now you have a fluency. That's the big picture. We're going to teach that at Real Estate Domination this year. The big picture is what everything is about this year in this recessionary market. But ladies and gentlemen, stop looking at these fix and flips. Stop looking in market sectors that have been super popular in times past, because what's happening is you're ducking and weaving through all of these assets that may have affluency or may not, and instead of going straight towards what's affluent right now, people, they realize that there's a need, but they don't know what market sector to get into. And I'm telling you guys, look, this is the market sector that we're working in, we're living in. This is the market sector you guys should be paying attention to and be focusing on. And so for those of you guys who are focusing on this, props off, hats off to you guys. That's the market sector that's gonna be the most sought after asset class over the next decade. Okay, so depending on how old you are, in 10 years from now, think about where you can be if you focus on this asset class for the next 10 years. I was driving through Texas, northern Texas, with Joe Smead, who's one of my main lead guys that runs my social media stuff. And I told him, Mo, how old are you right now? And he goes, 31. And I said, Mo, I'm almost 50, just shy of 50 right now. And I said, look, in 15 years, as we went through Frisco, we drove through Frisco, I said, look at the development as we went down the toll road in Frisco. Massive freeway, frontage roads, tons of real estate. I said 15 years ago, where we're looking up north, looked just like Frisco. Imagine in 15 years knowing that you're gonna own a small piece of what's happening up north, and you're gonna be driving through and tell people, I remember when this was all farmland. And now it looks like Frisco 15 years later, and you'll still be younger than I am now in 15 years looking back and to say, in hindsight, best decision I've ever made. And for a lot of you guys, you're blind. People are blind. And not for you guys. I know you guys are smart. Everybody that's watching this is super intelligent. Put hashtag, if you watch this later, put hashtag replay. But I know I'm marketing this out to the most affluent, smartest people in the world, right? Probably not, but let's consider that. Okay? Imagine if you got hyper-focused for the next 2 years and you just figured this out over the next 2 years and you really got hyper-focused on affordable housing and the benefits to affordable housing. One, you'd be solving a massive crisis that we have as a U.S. population right now with everything that's happening with our central banking systems. And why is this happening with our central banking systems? Okay, why are the central banks taking over the housing market? Why are they lending to people like BlackRock and Greystone to be able to build out subdivisions that are built to rent communities? Why? Because they want to own the market. And what's happening is they are pricing out first-time home buyers so it becomes a renter's nation. How do you take advantage of that? If we can't fix that, why not partake in it? Okay, that's my question to you guys. You guys start partaking in it. What if you're a small piece of what BlackRock is doing right now? It's a sought-after field. Banks are going to lend on it. And a lot of times, banks, not only will they lend on it, but they'll do it unsecured debt to lend on it, especially once stabilized, okay? So no recourse debt that you have no recourse if it defaults. Why? Because they know it's a great asset class, and they will happily take over your asset if you do not know how to run it, and they will add it to their portfolio and they'll run it for you because they know that it's truly passive income. That's why banks will give you debt that is unsecured. It's not unsecured. The asset itself is securing the debt. So let me fix that, okay? It's non-recourse debt. There's a difference. Unsecured debt is when there's nothing that secures that debt. It is secured by the asset itself. It's no recourse debt, meaning that there's no recourse on you personally if they have to take that back unless you do something fraudulent or illegal, okay? So why will they give you non-recourse debt on an asset? Because if you default on it, they'll happily take it back from you and they'll own it 100% and they'll get you out and sweep you off the curb and they'll take that asset because the banks know that it truly is one of the best and most sought after asset classes out there right now, and the banks will simply love to take it back from you and manage it and have that passive income. So, ladies and gentlemen, affordable housing is where it's at. You can either go into affordable housing and have housing that is subsidized by our federal government and focus on like Section 8 type housing, and stuff that's secured through our government, state or federal level, or you can go out and just go after the mass population of people that need housing right now. So affordable housing is where it's at. The question is, how will you take advantage of it? Look, guys, I came from the other side of the train tracks. I started off with nothing, absolutely nothing. My parents didn't help me out with a red cent. They worked their asses off, worked great jobs to be able to put us through private school. But I come through just an average middle-class family. And my parents came from almost nothing to be able to put us where we're at. And I'll tell you guys that I went after it. And I wasn't anything special. I'm a dyslexic kid that grew up on the other side of the train tracks, that grew up fist fighting. And that's how we got through that's how we did things when I was growing up. That's how we settled problems, with our fists. And I'll tell you guys, we didn't settle them with guns. We didn't settle them with stuff like that. We go out to the back of a house just like this. We'd fist fight. We'd figure out a problem. And at the end of it, whoever was last man standing was the one that won. And that's how we settled disputes back in the days. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't do that nowadays, okay? But that's the side of the train tracks I grew up on. And if someone like me can come in and do what I've done and take down hundreds of millions of dollars in assets, the world doesn't revolve around people like me. I'm not the type that they revolve around. So if you're sitting back going, I'm not that type of person, it'll never happen to me, think again. Put your head down, go to work. Hyper-focus on something that makes sense financially. And if you focus on it and you're the most consistent at it, I promise you, just like me, can go out and mass fortunes in industries that there's a mass need to do so. Just shave off your sliver, ladies and gentlemen, and go out and make a difference. Affordable housing isn't going away. We got a minimum of a decade that we need to take advantage of this. Take advantage of the next 10 years, and I promise that what you do in the next 10 years, if you really put your head down and go to work, is more than you'll ever do in the next 30 years working for the man, working out in corporate America, doing something, seeking something else. And plus, you're gonna be helping out our U.S. economy. So ladies and gentlemen, affordable housing, you like this content, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you're notified every time we go live with more content just like this. And ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to having you guys be a part of everything we're doing in the affordable housing market. But don't just watch me. Don't be a sideliner watching from the stands. Get on the field. It's time for you to go to work and play the same game I am. Ladies and gentlemen, go out and compound your success. God bless you guys, and you guys all go out and make it a great day.